Every big moment in my life has started with the same sentence from my dad. Don't overreact. We did our best for you. When my sister got the bigger bedroom because she's older. When she got the new phone because she goes out more. When she got the car because it's not safe for her on buses. I learned to be the one who understood, who adjusted, who smiled and said, "It's okay, I'm fine." Then one evening, sitting at our dining table with wedding brochures and guest lists spread out, my dad cleared his throat, looked me in the eyes and said calmly, "I gave your wedding fund to your sister. She deserves it more." My mom stared at her hands. My sister didn't even look guilty. And for the first time in my life, I didn't say, "It's okay." Because my fiancé was sitting right beside me. And when he stood up, everything in that house changed. That's how this story began. If you ask my parents, they'll insist they love both their daughters equally. If you watch them for a week, you'll know that's not true. I'm the younger one, 2 years behind my sister Sarah. Growing up, people used to tell me, "You're so lucky to have an older sister. She's like a built-in best friend." They didn't see the way she'd step in front of me when a plate of food came out, or how she'd borrow clothes that never came back, or how every single rule bent around whatever she wanted. My earliest memory of realizing I was secondary is a birthday party. I was turning 8. Pink plastic plates, off-brand soda, homemade cake. I remember staring at the cake because of the candles. There were 8 sticking out crookedly, and then one tall, pretty glittery candle right in the middle. I hadn't seen that one before. It shimmered when the light hit it. "Wow," I whispered. "Is that for me?" Sarah laughed. "No, that one's mine." Mom wanted to make the cake look nice. She added one of my old candles. She blew hers out with mine. Everyone clapped. My parents smiled. And I stood there with wax cooling on icing, realizing even on my cake, there had to be something of hers at the center. Childhood, for me, was 100 small versions of that moment. 12, I wanted to join art class. I filled out the form, circled the fee, and brought it to my parents at dinner. "Can we afford it?" "Yes." My dad glanced at it. "We'll see." 2 weeks later, Sarah announced at breakfast that she was joining a dance academy. "Fees triple mine." Dad beamed. "Of course, Beta. You'll look so graceful on stage." He wrote the check right away. When I hesitated in the doorway, clutching my half-crumpled art form, he looked at me like he'd just remembered I was there. "We don't have the budget for both right now," he said. "You understand, right? You're good at studying. You don't need all this extra stuff." He nodded. I always nodded. That became my role. The one who understood. The one who didn't make things harder. The practiced daughter they made their mistakes on emotionally but expected not to break. Sarah became the delicate one. The one whose heartbreaks were treated like national emergencies. The one who needed rides, money, comfort, apologies. When she cried, the whole house went quiet. When I cried, I was too sensitive or being dramatic. By the time we were in high school, it was almost funny how predictable it was. If there were 2 good pieces of chicken and 1 dry one, Sarah got the good pieces. If there was 1 seat with a fan directly above it in summer, Sarah sat there. If there was any situation that required choosing between us, you didn't have to guess who they picked. I didn't complain. Not because I was some saint, but because complaining didn't change anything. Mom would say, "You know how your sister is, nah. Just leave it. You're stronger." Dad would say, "We're doing our best with what we have. Don't keep score." So I stopped keeping score out loud. I started keeping it quietly, in a place deep in my chest. When Sarah's college applications came around, you would have thought the entire family had gotten into Harvard. Meetings with counselors, endless forms, tuition numbers that made my stomach twist. Dad didn't blink. "We'll make it work," he said, resolve in his eyes. "My daughter deserves the best." When my turn came, the energy was different. He slid a community college brochure toward me and said, "This is more practical. Less expensive. You can maybe work part-time too. We can't bleed ourselves dry for both of you, understand?" There it was again. You understand. I was angry. Course I was. But I also knew something nobody in that house seemed to remember. I'm good with pain. I know how to use it. I went to community college. I got a part-time job. Then another. I studied in bus rides and lunch breaks. Graduated with honors. Landed a decent position in a marketing firm downtown. Sarah. She drifted. Changed majors twice. Came back home for a year to regroup. Every time Dad said, "She's trying. She just needs support." When I handed over part of my paycheck to help with bills, he said, "You're a blessing to this house. But blessings don't get priority. Blessings are something you're grateful for, not something you choose." By the time I was 26, I had stopped expecting to be chosen. Then I met Ian. He was different. Not in the cliché movie way. No slow-motion entrance, no dramatic music. He was just kind, steady, attentive. We worked in the same building. He held doors, remembered coffee orders, actually listened when I spoke. When we started dating, it was almost unsettling how normal it felt to be treated like I mattered. He took me seriously. My opinions, my work, my feelings. One evening, months into our relationship, he asked about my family in a way that wasn't small talk. "You always talk about them like you're standing in the doorway," he said gently. "Like you live in the house but you're not really inside it." That sentence lodged itself in my ribcage. I told him about the bedroom, the phone, the car, the college. I told him about Sarah's glitter candle on my cake. I told him about the way my dad's voice always softened for her and became matter-of-fact for me. He didn't interrupt. Didn't rush to say, "Oh, I'm sure they love you too." He just frowned and said, "That sounds really painful." And I cried. Because that was the first time anyone had said it like it mattered. When he proposed 2 years later, it was simple and perfect. No flash mob, no crowd. Just us on a rooftop parking lot at sunset, city buzzing below, sky turning soft gold. He held out a ring and said, "I know you're used to being treated like an afterthought. I want to spend the rest of my life proving you're not." I said yes so quickly I almost forgot to breathe. For a few weeks, it felt like all the years of being the understanding one were finally leading somewhere good. My parents were excited. Or at least they acted excited. My mom started ironing old family outfits for function days. My dad started saying things like, "My daughter is getting married, Yar," to neighbors and shopkeepers. And then money entered the conversation. Money always tells the truth in families. One Sunday afternoon after lunch, my dad called me into the living room. Ian was there too. He'd stopped by to drop off some sweets. Dad cleared his throat, a heavy sound that made my stomach drop. "You know we've been saving for your wedding for years," he began. Smiled a little shy. "I know. I always appreciated that, Baba." He nodded. Looked at my mom. At Sarah, lounging on her phone on the sofa. "That fund," he said slowly. "It was meant for whichever daughter needed it most." The way he said whichever made my skin prickle. I glanced at Ian. His jaw tightened just a little. "What do you mean?" he asked. My voice sounded smaller than I wanted it to. Dad took a deep breath. "I gave most of it to your sister," he said. "She deserves it. She's struggling in other areas. You're stable. You and Ian have jobs. You'll manage. She doesn't have that security." The words dropped one by one like bricks. "Gave most of it to your sister. She deserves it." My ears rang. Sarah didn't look up. My mom's eyes stayed fixed on the table. All those years of quietly understanding, of nodding, of being the strong one, condensed into one hot, stunned moment. I opened my mouth to say, "It's okay." Because that's who I'd always been. The girl who understood. But before I could say anything, the chair next to me scraped back. Ian stood up. And when he did, my father's favorite pattern. The one where I accepted less so Sarah could have more. Finally violently broke. Ian didn't shout. He never does. He stood up slowly, like he was giving my dad one last chance to correct himself before the words hardened into fact. "Uncle," he said, voice steady. "Can you repeat that, please?" Dad shifted in his seat. He doesn't like repeating things when he knows they sound bad. "I said," he replied, a little defensive now, "I gave most of the wedding fund to Sarah. She needs it more. You two are educated. You have salaries. You can manage." Ian nodded like he was taking notes. "And you decided this when?" he asked quietly. My dad frowned. "Does it matter? It's done now." "It matters to me," Ian said. "Because you announced to us for months that you had a wedding fund for your younger daughter. You used that to tell people, everything is handled. You made it sound like you were supporting her." I watched his hands. They were relaxed, but his jaw wasn't. Dad sighed. "Don't make drama out of this. We helped as much as we could. We just redirected. Her sister," Ian cut in, "has been redirected ahead of her since she was a child." That sentence hung in the air like smoke. Sarah finally looked up from her phone. "What's your problem?" she said. "It's not like you can't afford a simple wedding. Why are you acting like we robbed a bank?" A laugh slipped out of me, but it wasn't amused. It was sharp, humorless. "A simple wedding," I repeated. "You mean the one we planned around the number Baba gave us? The one he promised over and over was safe?" Ian looked right at my father. "Did you ever intend to give it to her?" he asked. "Or was that just something nice to say?" My father's face hardened. Pride stepped in front of guilt like it always does. "We did intend," he said. "But then your sister had problems. She needed to start her boutique. She needed investment. A wedding is one day. A business is her future." I stared at Sarah. "The boutique," said. "The one with the huge launch party. The one with the neon sign and the ring lights and the sponsored influencers." I shrugged. "Yeah. Can't start cheap. Who will respect me?" I pressed my palms into my knees so they wouldn't shake. "So my wedding," I said slowly, "was your startup capital." Dad leaned forward, frustration rising. "Stop using such big words. We did what was practical. You and Ian are solid. Why should she suffer when you're already comfortable?" I felt something inside me tilt. Comfortable. I'd never heard someone use that word like an accusation before. Ian let out a breath, like he was physically stopping himself from saying something harsher. "This isn't about money," he said. "This is about what she means to you." Dad bristled. "We love her. Don't question that. Everything we did for both our daughters." "No," Ian said, and his voice had that almost dangerous calm now. "Everything you did for one daughter, and expected the other to understand." My mom finally spoke, voice small. "Beta, try to see our side. Sarah has been lost. This business gave her purpose. Your marriage is already strong. Nika is done. You two love each other. What is money compared to that?" I turned to her. "So I'm supposed to walk into a marriage knowing the money that was saved in my name, Amna's wedding fund, was quietly given away? And to the same sister who has always been chosen over me?" Sarah rolled her eyes. "You're so dramatic. Baba said he still has some money left. You can have that. Just don't go crazy. Have a smaller function. Or skip a function. What's the big deal?" The big deal. The big deal was 8-year-old me watching her blow out my candle. 16-year-old me hearing "no budget" while she got dance lessons. 19-year-old me bus hopping to class while Sarah got a car because it's not safe for her. 22-year-old me signing my first employment contract while Dad said, Good, now you can help us. Your sister will make us proud soon too. The big deal was that this was never just about money. This was about being chosen in public finally. And having it ripped away like it was nothing. I looked at my father. One question, I said. If Ian wasn't sitting here today, would you have even told me? He hesitated. That was my answer. And saw it too. His expression shifted, sadness first, then something like resolve. He pulled his chair back in, but he didn't sit. He addressed my father properly now, formally. Mr. Rahim, he said, I respect you as my elder. I respect the fact that you raised the woman I love. But I need you to hear this clearly. Dad's eyebrows shot up. He wasn't used to being spoken to like that by anyone, least of all a future son-in-law. You did not redirect funds, Ian said. You took her wedding fund, money that symbolized that she matters as a daughter, and gave it to someone you have always prioritized. You didn't discuss it. You didn't warn her. You simply assumed. He turned slightly, including my mother and sister now. You assumed she'd say again, "It's okay, I understand." My throat tightened. He was saying the things I had swallowed for years. You're making us villains for helping our own child, my mom whispered. Ian shook his head. No, I'm saying, you helped one child by quietly asking the other to give something up. That's not love. That's imbalance. Dad's temper finally snapped. Enough, he barked. This is our family matter. You're an outsider here. Don't talk like you know everything. I nodded once. You're right. I am an outsider. Which is why I see things clearly. He glanced at me. And I will not let the woman I'm marrying walk into a life where she's always expected to be grateful for less. Silence. The kind that drowns you. Dad scoffed. So what now? You'll cancel the wedding. You'll punish her because we couldn't give you money. Ian's eyes softened when he looked at me again.